Hi everybody, and welcome to the Horse Barn Management Show, and I'm Sheri, and if you're watching, thank you. Um, this is our YouTube channel, and we're here to help you with your horse business and talk about all the real life issues and things that come up when it comes to being a horse trainer and running a business, boarding other people's horses, barn managers, and all they go through. We're here to talk about it and keep it real, and the whole goal of it is so that you're successful in your horse business, and that's what I want for you. And just if some of you don't know who I am, my name is Sheri. We run a large boarding facility in Wisconsin, and we've been doing it for about 18 years. And when I started, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I really didn't. And now looking back, I wish I would have done some things different in the beginning, but maybe it was a good thing because it taught me how to do it right. I had to, I didn't want to lose the farm. So the financial part of it was really important. And also the people part, the client part. And the funny thing is the horse part was really the easiest. So we are here on this YouTube channel, and if you have questions, please put them down in the comments. If you have comments, put them down there. And if you like this channel after you've watched a few of these, please subscribe and, tell us that you like it. We'd love to hear back from you, feedback. And if you have questions, please let us know what you want to talk about, because that's what I do. Now I do a lot of consulting and help other boarding stables be successful, and kind of, get people to start thinking outside the box and, okay, what does my business look like? How does it work best for me? Because, when it comes down to it, every single boarding stable is different. They're all unique. And the one thing we have in common is the horses, and that we all have clients. And so we're going to navigate some of that. I had someone ask me a question a couple weeks ago, and it was about if I would talk about employees. And that is a great subject, because most new barn owners that start out with employees, at least it was for me, and it seems like that's been the pattern that I've learned from talking to other people. Most people that have employees usually start out with the bartering system when it comes to boarding horses. And what I mean by that is, you have people that want to board their horse at your stable, and they want to do a trade for board. So they're willing to work for you and do a trade, and you would give a discount on the board. And, it sounds like a great idea at first. I did the same thing, and I learned early on, very fast in the first year, that it's really not a healthy way to run a real business, a real horse business. Because what happens in that is, when you're bartering with boarders, there's two things. First of all, it's only natural that they're not going to look at the job like a real job, because they're not getting a paycheck every month. So they're going to look at it, in a much more casual way. And the other part of it is that, if you're bartering, the lines get really skewed on how many hours they should be working for to cover so much of the board. So if the board is $500 a month, how much should they actually be working? And honestly, I have never seen a success story in that usually, because usually what happens is there's been an agreement made at the very beginning between the boarder who's bartering with the barn owner or the barn manager, to work so many hours, and they end up usually working less, or they're not doing their due diligence, and they're not, someone gets the short end of the stick. It always seems like someone gets the short end of the stick. And barn owners get frustrated because they've agreed to have this person work so much, and the person kind of isn't doing that. Or I've also seen it the other way, where the boarder is very frustrated because they agreed on this much to have maybe $200 taken off their board a month. And now they feel pressured to work even more, but they still have the same amount being taken off their board. And so I've seen it go bad. I've seen it go south on both sides. And so I'm not a fan of bartering. I don't do it at our stable at all. We do it where everybody gets a monthly paycheck, and I have workman's comp and the whole bang. It keeps everybody on an even playing field. They feel like they have a real job where they get their payment, their paycheck at the end of the month. And you know what? They can use that money to go, take it to help pay for their board. But it just becomes more of a business employee relationship, and it's much more healthy. So I'm going to backtrack here a minute, and I'm going to talk a little bit about bartering and another downfall that some people don't realize. And that is, when you barter with an employee, if they get hurt while they're working for you and you don't have workman's comp, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to end up having to pay for their medical bills no matter what. Even if they say they are, quote, working for free or whatever, if they're bartering, the state will probably look at it as they are employee because they were assigned to be there at a certain time, and you're going to be held responsible for that. And I know of a specific barn that did that with an employee, and the employee got hurt, and the barn owner didn't have workman's comp because they were bartering, for exchange for board, and they had to pay thousands of dollars for an accident and then a surgery that the person had to have. And you're really playing with fire when you do it that way. So also, I would encourage you to check on your insurance, because I believe when you barter with people, you can still use it under the realm of employee, and workman's comp somehow covers that. But I'm not an insurance agent. I don't do any bartering like that. But I have heard that from one insurance agent that they'll put a dollar amount on that for bartering. But you have to have the paperwork. You have to have the paper trail. You have to be able to prove that they're actually an employee. So, on that situation, I'm not an insurance carrier, so I would double check that with your equine insurance, business insurance. But I don't barter at all. I pay so much an hour. I do an hourly wage, and I pay them once a month at the end of the month, and I also pay workman's comp. So, and that's one payment yearly. And if you haven't checked into that, you really need to check into it. Workman's comp is adjusted according to how much you pay out for employees during the year. So if you pay out $30,000 or $40,000 for employees during the year, your workman's comp is going to be a lot higher than someone who's only paying out maybe $15,000 a year. So just think about that. That's the first thing we're going to talk about, is the whole bartering versus regular employees, where they write their hours down and all that. The other part of it is it's such a unique job, because I have a lot of people that can't seem to keep employees. And I think the thing about it is, one of the problems I've seen is that I'm going to talk here for Wisconsin. We have such crazy weather in the winter and the spring. It's cold. It's really hard at times. And if the job is too hard for the people, they're going to burn out and they're going to quit on you a lot. So I always tell barn owners, do the job and then talk to someone, figure out ways to make it easier, because it's already hard. But you can't expect people to just break their backs day in and day out, because everything with horses is heavy. You're lifting, you're pushing manure around, you're doing all this stuff. And if the weather's bad, you're going to have a high turnover. So I always try to make it where I do it daily. I clean stalls every single day. I should say 5 or 6 days a week. And I take grain bags, put it in the grain bins. I dump the manure. I do a lot of stuff. And if I can do it, then I know that younger people can do it. But we've made it really efficient. And that's what you need to really figure out is, okay, how do I make my barn as efficient as possible for the employees? Because you really need to be looking out for them. I know most barn owners look for their their clients, and they want to make everything easy for the clients, but you won't have a good client base if your employees are quitting and stalls are not getting cleaned, water tanks are not getting filled, and all the jobs that need to be getting done are not getting done, or they're getting done kind of sloppily. So I want you to really think about that, because it goes together. It's all entwined. And if one is a I can't even talk. It is a weak link. If one's a weak link, then it's going to hurt your whole business. So you really need to prioritize the job for the employees and make sure it's as easy as possible in a job that's going to be physically hard anyways. And so the best thing you can do as a barn manager or a barn owner is to do it yourself, and not just one day, but maybe for a few weeks. Do it every day, see what it's like, so that you get a real grasp for how long everything should take. The other thing people really, I've seen barn owners or barn managers struggle with, is they're hiring people, but what you have to realize is sometimes you need different employees. And the way you have to look at it is, in any business, you're going to have employees that are really strong at one thing and maybe not so strong in a different area. So you're going to have them utilize where they're the best at. So for our barn, we have 27 horses that are stalled and have to be let out every day, and then they're brought back in the afternoon. And some of them can be full of it, especially on the cooler days, and they can be a little bit hard to handle. I have to understand and know that not everybody can handle those horses. So I have some people that come to our barn and they're just thrilled and happy to clean stalls and maybe do the water, do some of the bedding. They don't want to handle the horses. They don't feel comfortable with it, and that's okay. They're perfect for what I need for someone to clean stalls, and I appreciate them so much. And then you can have some people who are excellent at handling horses that are full of it, feisty in the morning. Some of them are hard to walk. Some of them may have some bad habits, but they understand how to deal with all that. So you're looking at different types of employees, and you really need to utilize that and understand everyone's strengths, because what I have seen in barns is, not every barn, but some barns, is they're so desperate for people to work there that they hire people to handle the horses, which is the most important part. And they don't understand what to do when the horse starts acting up, and they might overcorrect the horse. They might get scared and not know what to do. It can run the full circle. It could put the employee in danger. It could put the horse in a situation where they start to really overreact and cause a situation to be worse. So you really need to know who's handling your horses. It's really important. And so we have different types of employees here. We have employees that clean stalls for us in the morning, and it's a great time. They come and they're done early. We're usually done by like 9:30 in the morning. And then we have employees that come and help just bring horses out or bring them in. And some of them will do both. And like, I had knee replacement surgery in June, so I couldn't walk horses in or out. So I have a couple people that I know can do that with my husband and help get horses out and get them in. But I also know that they understand the horses. They feel comfortable around them on the days when the horses are squirrely. They know what to do. They know what to look for if a horse is not feeling well. And so as a barn manager, I really want you to think about who you're hiring. And, sometimes it doesn't have to be a person that can do it all. Sometimes just if you have someone who wants to clean stalls, let them clean stalls. I definitely have that a lot. I have people that love to clean stalls and be in the barn and see the horses, but they don't handle them. And it works out great. The other thing is, it's a job that's a split shift. You have your morning and you have your afternoon, and that is can be challenging because and the thing is, we have a split shift here, but some barns actually do a middle of the day feeding, and that means you have to have someone on staff during the middle of the day. First of all, you better make sure that you are financially fit in a way that you can afford to have a staff person on all day long to feed in the middle of the day, and that they know how to feed. Otherwise, if you're going to do a split shift, that can be a little bit difficult too, because a lot of people that work here have full-time jobs. I have had some moms come and want to work in the morning cleaning stalls, and they might not have, or they have a part-time job and it works out great. But you're trying to find a balance with that split shift, because if we don't hire people full-time at our stable, so unless you're looking for a full-time employee, you're going to be really looking for unique individuals that fit each of those situations, whether it's morning or afternoon. The other thing I would say is, at a boarding stable, it's not just a 9 to 5 job. So you might have your morning employees and your afternoon employees. And because obviously we start work here like around 5:30 in the morning. And if I had someone on at 5:30 and then I had them work all the way till we closed the barn at 8 at night, well, obviously we wouldn't have a boarding stable, because we would go out of business, because it would be too much money. So for me and my husband, we do this ourselves, and we work full-time here, and then we have people that help us. But if you're not in that situation where you're hiring people because you're not going to do the job, you really need to be wise on that, because the money adds up really fast. And if I could say something, not to, how do I say this? I think one of the reasons barns sometimes have a hard time finding employees is because they don't want to pay. And, I'm not saying you have to pay them, $25 an hour, but you need to pay them a little bit, more than $8 an hour. You need to pay them a little bit more to make it worth their time to come out and do chores in all types of weather. And so if I could encourage you, when you're figuring out your budget, look at all that, put it all together, and make sure that you have extra for your employees so that you can pay them a little bit extra, and that will make a huge difference. The other thing, when it comes to employees, I think the one thing you have to be really careful of is when you have employees who are also boarders, which is very common, you have to be really careful that the lines don't get crossed, because what happens if that employee doesn't do a good job, or they're not showing up, or they're calling in sick, or other situations that are not desirable, and it's time to let them go, but they still board at your stable? And that happened to me many years ago, and it was really uncomfortable, because we had someone who had some problems, and I hate the word fire, but we fired them, but they still boarded at our barn. And I knew right there I was going to lose a client, because they were going to move their horse. In that situation, it was crazy, but they stayed, which was great. But it took a while to get over it, because it was a little awkward between us. And I tried to handle it really nice, talk to them nicely with respect. But it's really a hard situation when you let someone go who's working for you and they still board at your barn. So think about that when you're hiring people. Also, be really smart and think about, can they physically handle the job? Because a lot of people dream and have this idealistic idea of, I'm going to work in the barn and I'm going to clean stalls and listen to the knickers and all that. And it really is so much different than that. It's a lot of physical work. It's exhausting. You're tired. You're cold on winter days. Sometimes you're sweating like a pig in the summer. It's not glamorous at all. And some of them come with this idea of what they think it's going to be like. And after a couple weeks, they get burned out because it's not what they thought it was going to be. And so you need to be realistic. And I guess sometimes when someone comes and I'm looking for someone, I will have them try a day and just see, if they can handle it and what they think. I want to be really real with them. And sometimes once they see it, they don't come anymore. Or they see it and they say, yeah, they're going to give it a try. And, because the idea is you want people that stay for years. You want the same employees. They know what to expect, and you're going to, it's going to run like clockwork. And so you really want a good fit for whatever that situation is. Of course, life isn't perfect, and, you're going to have people quit, and you're going to have situations where you have to talk to someone. But for the most part, I really think you can have a healthy barn owner, barn manager, employee relationship as long as you keep the communication open. If there's a problem, you talk about it early and just say, hey, stay off your cell phone while you're working. You got to have rules, and it's okay to have rules. Other businesses have rules, and you need to treat it exactly the same way, because if you don't, it can get really out of hand fast. And then all of a sudden you have people who, the job could take 2 hours to do, and they're there for 4, and they're milking you dry financially. And, the truth is every dollar counts. It's all important. It's a business, and you're not in business to go out of business. You're in business to make a living, do what you wanted to do as your dream. So employees is not the funnest topic to talk about, but it's really a necessity if you're going to have a facility where you need help. And if I can encourage you, please do one thing: check with your insurance company, get the workman's comp for your state so you're covered if there's an accident, because you know what, there's nothing worse than having someone get hurt on the job and you have to pay for it out of your pocket, and it could be tens of thousands of dollars if they really get hurt. I've been hurt really bad here, and since we're covered, because I'm covered because I own the business with my husband, it's one thing. But if the accident that happened to me would have happened to an employee and I didn't have workman's comp, I can't even tell you what would have happened. And that's when I got stepped on and I broke 9 ribs. I had to have surgery, and they put metal strips in my side. It was kind of bad. But I know that I was in the hospital for a week, and that I'm sure that was $100,000, that whole thing. And I had insurance, but think of someone working for you got stepped on, the same thing happened, and they didn't have insurance. I'm not telling you to scare you. I'm telling you so that you're smart and that you're covered. And, we want, if you're going to be successful and run a really solid business that is really healthy, and you have every area of it covered, this is part of it. It's not the fun part. It's not the fun part with the horses, but it's really important, and you need to have it, because with horses, anything can happen at any time, and we want you to be prepared for it, so it's not a blow to you financially, and it doesn't ruin your business. So we couldn't do our job without employees. They are so important to us. They do a great job. I'm very open and honest about what I expect and how they handle the horses and the way I want them to handle the horses. I'm very open. I tell them the quirks that the horses have. If we have one horse that rushes the gate, I make sure I teach them how to lead that horse out to the gate and through it so that they don't get run over. We have some horses that pull on their halters trying to get the halters off. And what I do is I make sure that every horse that goes out in the morning, you take them into the paddock, and then you face the horse towards you. You get them calm, quiet, then you take the halter off, because a lot of horses will just take off, and you don't want them kicking anybody. They don't want them kicking the person holding the halter. So be really specific on what you want to teach your employees on how to handle horses. You'll create much better horsemanship in the barn. Safety is of the utmost importance. And if someone can't handle it, you need to be honest with them and say, you know what, right now I don't think you're ready to handle some of these tough horses, and it's okay. They're going to be fine. Maybe in a couple of years they'll be able to handle more. I usually have that problem with kids, like teenagers that'll want to work here, and I usually don't hire teenagers for the most part because they can't handle the horses, and they got school and everything going on, and I really need dependable people, and they're at a time in their life when they're busy going all these other places. So I like to hire people a little bit older if I can find them, because they're more settled. And but I do once in a while get someone who's 16 or 17 and they do a great job. They're able to handle the horses. They have experience, and they're really mature for their age. So you want to think about all that. Be really, use discernment. Just think about who you're talking to. Do they have good communication skills? Are they a good worker? If you need to ask for references, do it. Just treat it like a real job all the way. After all, it's your business. It's your reputation. Your employees will be some of the first people that your clients will see when they're working in the barn. And that always represents you as the barn owner or the trainer. It always represents you. So if your employees are using bad language, are doing things that are really inappropriate, it represents you. It's a reflection on you as the owner of the business. So set guidelines and say, this is what's allowed here. And if they don't like that, then they're not the right employee for you at your barn. And it's okay, because they'll find another place to work. But it's okay to set limits and say, this is how we're going to do it here. Especially with, I had one person who tended to use a lot of really kind of bad language, and the boarders would come in the morning and the language was really, it was a little rough. And our barn's a family barn, and we have lots of young people, and I didn't want that. And I had to talk to her about it. I said, please don't talk like that here while you're on the clock, because people hear you and it just sounds bad. Think of it as a real business, just like any other business. And I know some businesses nowadays, people say whatever they want and they can use 4-letter words, but you are the owner of your business. You can do it however you want, and it all adds up, and it sends a great message of what kind of care and facility you have, and you want it to be positive because you're building a reputation. So I hope that answers some of your questions about employees. Honestly, we couldn't do our job without it here at Vinland Stables. We have great employees, and they're very dependable, even when the weather's really lousy and it's cold. But, all I can tell you is just take it slow. And sometimes you're going to have to make tough decisions and let someone go, but it's okay. You do what's best for your business, because you're in it for the long run, the long haul. I mean, you might be doing it 20, 25 years. So you need to build that reputation, and that starts with your employees too. It's really important, because that's who the clients see when they come into your barn, especially if they're coming for a tour, they want to see your facility. It's really important. So it's maybe not the most exciting thing to talk about, because people always want to talk about the horse part, but it is really just so important when you have a horse business. And if you have any questions or comments, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And if I didn't answer something, please put it down below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And if you want to learn more about running a horse business, in barn management, if you're thinking about building, or you just have questions, please check out my book, Starting and Running a Successful Horse Boarding Business. I wrote this specifically just so, well, for one thing, because there wasn't anything out there that I could find like this. But this is for anybody who wants to run a horse business. But for me, it was really about boarding horses, because it's such a big part of the industry, because no matter what you do, people board horses all over the United States for many different reasons. And, without people boarding horses, the industry wouldn't be what it was, because not everyone can keep their horse at home, and nor do they want to. So if you're looking for a book, you can find it on Amazon, or go on Pro Barn Management, and you can click the link there on the book page, and it will take you right to Amazon, but it's probarnmanagement.com. There's a lot of videos and stuff on there too you can check out and podcast. Otherwise, they're on YouTube. And this book will really help you. It's all the nuts and bolts of this business. I talk about everything, and it'll answer hopefully a lot of your questions. So please check it out. And I want to thank you for showing up and watching this podcast. And I want to wish you the best in your business, wish you much success. And that's such a hard word, much success. I want to wish you the best. And I have to go out soon and do chores myself this afternoon. But anyways, please we'd love to hear from you. And if you have questions, please let us know, or you can just write them below. And wishing you a beautiful weekend and next week. And we'll put the next podcast out in about a week. Anyways, God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.